The trailer to Project Hail Mary was released just a couple of days ago. A film starring Ryan Gosling and directed by the dynamic duo Chris Miller and Phil Lord, who are behind the Spider-Verse franchise universe. And also, Sinners is finally going to be released on the Max Digital platform with the Black American Sign Language option to enable those who have hearing impairments to enjoy that film as well. And also taking a look at the Saudi film industry, we'll be looking at how they are rapidly growing and how the African film industries can take a lesson from that to build their own. These and more right here on the Film Mandate. My name is Papa Otu. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions, both from the African continent and the international scene. Thank you so much for joining me for this very episode. So, we'll be delving into the very first story, and this is none other than the Project Hail Mary story, which released its trailer just a couple of days ago. Just a couple of days ago. And starting with an article on Variety,
If you don't go, you die.
I just.
With the rest of us.
Let me see.
The sun is dying.
Yeah, I don't know why it keeps playing anytime I switch, but let's see. Let's hope it doesn't do so this time around. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Let me take it again.
Why?
We don't know.
Which is why we build a ship to go there and find out.
It's 11.9 light years away. The astronauts die in space.
It's what you Americans would call a long shot.
Hail Mary. I get it. Who on earth is going to sign up for this?
Yeah.
If we do nothing, everything on this planet will go extinct.
You'll find a solution.
I don't know where the
You are
time
my
is. Yeah. So, finally, I think it's dealt with now. Okay. Thanks again for your patience. Okay. So, Project Hail Mary trailer, the Ryan Gosling blast off and into space to save Earth in Phil Lord and Chris Miller's sci-fi comedy. This is an article written by Abigail Lee. And I read Ryan Gosling is heading to space in the first trailer for Project Hail Mary, the comedic sci fi film from Amazon MGM Studios follows Gosling, whose character makes a leap from unassuming teacher to an astronaut assigned to a risky space mission. The Barbie star appears opposite Sandra Hula Ozehala, an anatomy of a fall, who convinces Gosling's character to launch himself into space to save humanity. It's an insanely ambitious story that's massive in scope, and it seemed really hard to make, and that's kind of our bag. My audio just went off. Sorry. It's an insanely ambitious story that's massive in scope, and it seemed really hard to make. And that's kind of how bad Gosling said about the film at CinemaCon. This is why we go to the movies, and I'm not just saying it because I'm in it. I'm also saying it because I'm a producer on the film. Based on the Andy Weir novel of the same name, the film was directed by Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse filmmakers Phil Lord and Chris Miller. Drew Goddard, who penned the film adaptation of The Ware's The Martian, wrote the script. The Martian, which was directed by Ridley Scott and starred Matt Damon and Jessica Chastain, went on to garner 7 Oscar nominations and was a box office smash. Besides Barbie, Gosling recently appeared in The Fall Guy. He also played astronaut Neil Armstrong in First Man, which saw him reunite with La La Land filmmaker Damien Chazelle. Hola earned an Oscar nominated for Anatomy of a Fall and also uh, appeared in The Zone of Interest. Lord and Miller won an Oscar for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and previously helmed 21 Jump Street and the Lego Movie. So yeah, it comes this very production comes with such a roster of powerhouses like the dynamic directing duo of Phil Lord and Chris Miller. And then you also have such stars as the Oscar winner Hala, who earned a nomination, sorry, an Oscar nom for Hala, who was in Anatomy of the Fall. And Ryan Gosling, as you know, is already a powerhouse who has featured in a number of films with such powerful performances from the Blade Runner to La La Land, even way back to the Nice Guys that he starred opposite Russell Crowe. I did a reaction to the trailer quite recently, so you can find it on my channel if you want to take a look at the reaction video. But one thing I realized about this particular film or trailer of the film is how refreshing and new this particular genre of a film is. It's a sci-fi film, granted, but it has this comedic element to it and a little bit, edge of the seat thriller, sprinkled in there. And I think this movie would indeed, if it delivers on this tone and the story as we have seen in the trailers, which I believe the dynamic duo would be able to deliver on, then it is really going to be entertaining in the cinemas. As to whether it's going to bring about big office draws, that we can't tell. But at least from the look of it, I'm sure when the time comes and the pre-sales for the tickets are finally, released, maybe we'll get to know how well it's going to do in the box office. But just as the article said, Andy Weir, who happened to have written the book itself, is also behind, is also part of the team that adapted the script. And if I'm not mistaken, it was also indicated that the the writer who wrote the script for that is Drew Goddard, who wrote the script for The Martian, is also on this project as well to deliver such blueprint upon which the film was directed. So when we take a look at the success of The Martian itself, it did pretty well at the box office, and not just that, but the film was well directed. I think it was directed by Ridley Scott, and who is an A-list director, a very powerful visionary director. However, on this very production, it is being directed by a different team altogether. But regardless, their background or what they've been able to do with their Spider-Verse franchises and other productions has been nothing short of excellence. So, from what we have seen in the trailer, it is indeed spectacular, and hopefully, the way the trailer gave us a very the insight and very entertaining experience. Hopefully, the entire film will deliver on it. We've watched films where trailers have given us such, you know, powerful insight as to what the film is likely to be, and then yet fail when you watch the entire film. We are hoping this does not follow in that trend. And when we take a look at what they have done so far, from the Spider Verse to the Lego movie and other productions, they have delivered in terms of story, in terms of how entertaining it is, and the plots have been nothing short of riveting, if I should put it that way. So indeed, it is a good starts from what we've seen in the trailers, but I can what the Chris Lord and Phil Lord and Chris Miller have not really seen them drop the ball when it comes to directing projects, regardless of the genre or medium, whether it's animation or live action. So I know in this particular film that that will be released come March 20th of next year, March 20th, 2026. I'm sure it's going to be good enough for us to watch. And I like the performances of Ryan Gosling. Ryan Gosling in 20 in the Blade Runner movie, he had this air of seriousness because the entire film itself was quite a dark, gritty story. And even though he was in such a gritty story, he has this pleasantness about him. He has this pleasantness about him, and we've already seen his comedic chops in Barbie and The Nice Guys. If you have watched that particular film, that film was directed by Shane Black. Yeah, it was directed by Shane Black. So he has the comedic performance to deliver, on that front. And I think in this film, he does indeed deliver. So we'll be looking forward to it when it finally releases. But I'm sure prior to its release, there will be several trailers that will be released to before the film finally hits the theater. So you can go and check out my trailer reaction to this particular trailer if you feel, I mean, if you do so, you will get to know what I think about this particular trailer. So yeah, moving on from the anatomy, sorry, moving on from why am I mixing genres to get all together today? Pardon me. Okay, so moving on from that to the second story. Yeah, so the second story we have Sinners releasing on Max with an interesting feature, and I think this is not the first of its kind, but this in particular has to do with Black American Sign Language, which has nuances to it that I think that the mainstream American Sign Language may not have. So let's read this article and see what it has to offer. Yeah. So yes, and then yeah. So in the Hollywood Reporter, the article says that Sinners on Max will include a Black American Sign Language version. The film in its original form will also premiere on July 4th. This is written by Tony Maglio, and it says that Max will debut Sinners in the US on Friday, July 4th, when viewers will be able to watch it two ways by one, streaming the exact theatrical release version, and two, choosing Sinners in Black American Sign Language. It is the first time a streaming service has interpreted a film into Black American Sign Language, Warner Brothers says. Black American Sign Language is a distinct dialect of American Sign Language with its own dynamic history and unique grammar, signing space, rhythm, facial expressions, and cultural nuances. Reads an announcement released Monday. Max says the release of Sinners in Black American Sign Language marks a major step forward in accessibility, representation, and visibility in streaming. Yeah, so for the first time, the Black deaf community will have streaming access to a more immersive experience in their language. The press release continues. The written announcement also encourages Max subscribers who sign in ASL but are unfamiliar with Black American Sign Language to follow along with this interpretation. Sinners with the Black American Sign Language is interpreted by Nakia Smith, an influential voice in the Black deaf community who delivers a powerful interpretation with cultural depth and linguistic richness that aligns with the film's themes and historical timeline. Max said Smith performs the Black American Sign Language as directed by Rosalie Tim. Yeah, so let's just leave it at that. So, okay, let me just continue a little bit. So, Tim has directed American Sign Language versions of Warner Brothers Pictures' Beetlejuice, and Minecraft movie. Max also boasts ASL, again, not BASL versions of The Last of Us, Barbie, and Godzilla, the X-Con, The New Empire. Accessibility within streaming is not a one-size-fits-all approach. Our goal at Max is to make these great stories accessible to all audiences in a way that is authentic to the content and communities we serve. Naomi Webel, Senior VP Global Product Management at Warner Brothers Discovery, said in a statement, Sinners with Black American Sign Language is an example of how culturally nuanced access can enrich the viewing experience for our audiences. Yeah, so this indeed, I would say, is the studios really paying attention to the audience, particularly the Black community audience for the film Sinners. And this happens to be the very first time the Black American Sign Language is being used to interpret a film for the hearing impaired community in in the world over who have the subscriptions to the film on Max. So I think this is the indeed a very laudable thing that they are doing. I understand that this is not the first time they've done so for a film project, which I think it is brilliant. It is brilliant, and it is also very, um, uh, for lack of a better word, I would say it is the studios actually listening, paying attention that films can be enjoyed by all, regardless of the challenge you know, our individuals have. And I like the fact that the studios are considering widening the gap to accommodate all who enjoy film. Storytelling is enjoyed by all, regardless of whatever impairment you may have. And for them to not just um, incorporate the mainstream American Sign Language, but also to look at the Black American Sign Language, it is indeed genius. I say it is genius because Sinners predominantly stars Black American or Blacks in the film, or Black Africans in the film. And seeing the fact that perhaps the demographics of those who watched the film had more Black or minorities going to watch these film, or this film in itself, perhaps I'm sure informed them into ensuring that they incorporated the Black American Sign Language, which I think is genius. Why is it genius? Because the deaf community who may not necessarily, who are actually blacks, may not necessarily know much about how the American Sign Language works, would feel very much at home as to the Black American Sign Language, which they may be mainly used to. Let me put it that way, mainly used to. So for them to incorporate this into the version which will be put on the Max streaming platform, I think is really genius, and also it shows how the studio is listening to their audiences, or paying attention to the audience who watch their film. So I like what they've done with this, and I hope that more studios would go in that vein to listen to, to pay attention to those who are watching their films, and then in the next perhaps project they may do same for other communities like the Latino communities, or any other communities whose sign languages may differ from the mainstream one, that is the American Sign Language. And I was really touched by this particular piece because of the fact that most often, for those who may have all their faculties working properly, we sometimes forget that not all of us who love films have all our faculties working, and perhaps filmmakers in particular may not be considering this. But for what this studio is doing, and perhaps other studios who are doing same, indeed, I feel like that is a lot of they paying respect and paying attention to what their audience actually needs, and providing the necessary platform for audiences, regardless of your state of mind or your state of the state of your faculty or senses, you get the opportunity to enjoy a film without any hindrance whatsoever. So I indeed commend Warner Brothers for embarking on this particular project, including the BASL and not just the ASL into this particular film. So I really like what they have done, and I hope other filmmakers and studios will follow suit. So kudos to Van Kugler and his team and all those who are involved that took the decision to ensure that the Black deaf community gets the opportunity to understand the film regardless of the impairments they are faced with. So yeah, I'm really happy about this effort, and I hope more studios will follow suit in that regard. Now, moving on to last but not the last, but last, our final story is about the Saudi film industry. And it will interest you to know that the Saudi film industry actually was banned between the periods of the 1980s to around 2018, and after which they came back to really invest in it massively, and it is really growing rapidly. So, in an article published in the Arab News, we have the growing Saudi film industry driving job creation and economic growth. It's quite a lengthy article, but let me go through it quickly and then we can proceed to talk more about it. So, over 630 cinema screens opened across 60 locations in 2024, with ambitions to exceed 1,000 by 2030. Since lifting the cinema ban in 2018, Saudi Arabia has rapidly transformed its film industry into a key engine of job creation and economic diversification. By 2024, the kingdom had opened about over 630 cinema screens across 60 locations, with ambitions to exceed 1,000 by 2030. This expansion is expected to create over 7,000 direct and indirect jobs, contributing to a broader entertainment ecosystem projected to generate around 450,000 employment opportunities and push the sector's across domestic product contribution to 4.2% by the end of the decade. Building an industry. To date, more than $933 million has been invested in cinema infrastructure, content services, and technology by local and international players. According to Shahid Khan, partner and global head of media entertainment, sports, and culture at Atabdi Little Middle East, these investments have extended beyond major cities into developing regions, promoting more inclusive economic growth. A notable example is Movie Cinemas, the first, pardon me, the first Saudi-owned cinema brand and current market leader, which has rapidly expanded to establish itself as the market leader. It has employed hundreds of Saudis and actively invested in workforce localization through training programs aimed at building local capabilities in cinema operations and management, Khan said. He added that box office revenues have held steady at SR 900 million annually for the past 3 years, with food and beverage sales contributing over 500 million SR each year, strengthening the sector's role in Saudi Arabia's non-oil revenue diversification. Khan also pointed to the positive spillover into the local film production supported by regulatory incentives from the Film Commission, which is laying the groundwork for sustainable local driven industry growth. So it's quite a lengthy article. I think I won't go through all. Now, the reason why took, I feel like we need to talk about this article is the fact that if you look at how long a time the industry of Saudi Arabia was banned for various reasons, I'm sure only known to them. Or pardon me, my my video signal keeps dropping. I thought I have resolved it, but it's still dropping. I'll find a way to resolve it. But yeah, let's get back to the story. So, looking at how the Saudi film industry is performing right now, despite the fact that they have been in hiatus or they were or they were not performing or they were banned for 35 years. It is indeed amazing the kind of growth they are achieving, not just in terms of infrastructure, but that is also reflected in the revenue they are making steadily for the past 3 years, and that is closely to 1 billion. That is $933 million, and I feel and think that their growth and the seriousness and intentionality of building their industry is something that every African country or perhaps the entire African continent need to really pay attention at. If you look at the landscape or the government initiatives by a lot of countries in Africa, entertainment or the film industry really is an afterthought or mainly it's not part of the main priorities of economic growth or engine, a driven engine for economic growth. And that indeed is sad looking at the fact that if you are looking at most of the industries, the film industry or the entertainment industry happens to be one of the most profitable industries among all others. And yet, most African countries are not really paying attention to this engine of growth that could help transform their economies. As we paid attention to what the article said, in as much as oil revenue happens to be the main driven force behind the GDP of Saudi Arabia, they are projecting that by the year 2030, the economic growth of the film industry will contribute about 4.5% to the GDP of your country. And that is indeed really massive. That is really massive. And this they have been able to project and understand as a result of their intentional steps that they are taking to grow their film industry. As we read the article, as at 2018, if I'm not mistaken, as at 2018 or so, they have been able to put up 630 cinemas. 630 cinemas, and that is indeed mighty. Sorry, I think as at 2024, yes, as at 2024, pardon me, the industry was brought back in 2018, but as at 2024, they have been able to put up 630 cinemas, even with the intention of building more by 2030, building more cinemas by 2030. And this it's a country that is really taking their film industry very serious, even after having no film industry for over 30 years. And but for most African countries, we've had our industry been in existence for as long as we can ever imagine. But most governments have not really paid attention to the economic growth that this industry can bring to their country. I know a lot may say, perhaps watching me now may say, "Oh, the economy is not really the most African countries are not performing well economically." But the thing is that, in as much as we are not performing well economically, that is why we need these industries ought to be put in place to help boost that economic growth that we are looking for. That we are looking for. I'm saying this because for a lot of film industries worldwide, you have when the structures are put in place properly, you have foreign companies coming over to shoot productions in locations in those countries. Australia is one industry that attracts a lot of foreign backed dollars into their country as a result of companies coming in to shoot, films. And by so doing, these film productions that are shot brings a lot of jobs and good money into the industry. South Africa recently, I did a story where South Africa is experiencing a lot of economic growth for ancillary businesses around the film industry. And that is one thing a lot of perhaps governments may not know, or if they know, may not really are not really taking it serious. When film productions come to a place to shoot, not just the crew members or cast benefit from it, but you also have these peripheral businesses also benefiting from it, because when they come, they have to find a place to lodge, they have to eat, and there are so many other things that comes along with they being present in the country. And in the long term, when the film is released and it's a global hit, it also brings about a lot of tourism for especially the locations where these projects were shot. So it is about time that a lot of African countries pay attention to what they stand to gain if they purposefully and intentionally go about building their audiovisual industry or the film industry as a whole. It ought to be done. The I know a lot may say the film industry is a luxury. If you don't watch anything, you are okay. But in as much as you may say so, that is not the point. The point of the matter is that we stand to gain a lot more when the film industry is really performing right. We stand to lose when we do not take seriously the benefits that this film industry uh, is capable of bringing us. A lot of it, properly, even film industries that are not even doing bad are still incentivizing their industry to attract more foreign dollars. You have UK even doing same. You have Australia even doubling down. New Zealand, a lot of countries all over the world are incentivizing their industries by giving tax cuts to or tax breaks for a lot of these productions so that they can attract a lot of them into the country. Canada is one country doing same, even though they are not doing so bad. So I think it is about time that governments of Africa pay attention to this aspect of the industry that has been ignored for so long, for so long. And I hope they get to know what they stand to gain by intentionally investing. It may not necessarily they investing their money alone, but they can rope in that of international, backed investors to come into the space, provided they'll be incentivized to benefit from these industry. So yeah, this is the last story I have for today, and I'm passionate about it because I think that with an African industry, film industry, if properly structured, would massively benefit even the entire world. I read an article and did a topic on it that said that by 2030, Africa it's likely to contribute $20 billion to the entire film industry worldwide. $20 billion annually to the entire film industry worldwide. So there's a lot of potential in Africa, but until the structures are put in place, until we have data, until we have infrastructure and policies to back all these things, we'll be left way behind. We'll be left in the rat, and that is not what we want. For us who are, you know, passionate about films and the film industry, we would hope that one day our film industry will be growing massively and rapidly like that of the Saudi film industry. So this wraps up my stories for today. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I would like to apologize again for my video signal dropping. I'll do my best to resolve what the issue may be. But thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Film Mandate. I'll be coming your way again with another episode soon. My name is Papa Otu. I'll see you soon.